What's going on, Dolphins fans? It's Connor from the Dolphins Dive, and it is playoff football time. I'm here to break down the upcoming matchup of the Miami Dolphins versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Getting right into it, it's obviously going to be a freezing cold game, Saturday night at 8 p.m. I think it's supposed to be -1 degrees, feel like -30. This is insane temperatures, and that obviously is going to play a factor. And I'm going to start with the offensive side of the ball. Dolphins' offense is second in points per game. Chiefs' defense is second in points allowed. Dolphins are first in passing yards per game. Chiefs are fourth in passing yards allowed. Dolphins are sixth in rushing yards per game, and Chiefs are 18th in rushing yards allowed. And I think that statistic I just listed off is going to be the key of victory for the Miami Dolphins. Some notes for the Dolphins: Waddle and Mostert are both expected to be back, which is huge. Waddle's more important than Mostert just because we've had success running the football with Achane, Jeff Wilson. Mostert's a stud, but Waddle is more difficult to replace. First offensive key of the game, and I think it should be a surprise to no one: run the rock. Obviously, these freezing cold temperatures makes it extremely difficult to pass the football, as well as the wind that is expected to be there. I think it's supposed to be like 20 miles per hour. So if they're throwing against the wind, say you try and throw a deep ball, the wind's going to hold it up and bring it back, making it very easy for defensive backs to undercut it and intercept it. So obviously, Tua doesn't have the arm strength to be able to combat that like Patrick Mahomes might. So being able to establish the run, I just tweeted out a graphic. Mike McDaniel referenced probably the coldest game he's played in his career so far was the NFC Championship game against the Green Bay Packers. And look at the stat line that Raheem Mostert put up. It was quite insane. So that has to be the game plan. And I know Mike McDaniel gets a lot of criticism for not sticking with the run. If you were complaining about that from last week, we're watching a different game, or you just don't understand it. Like, you can't. We probably had 3 offensive possessions for 4 plays a drive. We had 12 plays. Like, you can't establish the run if first down you have a negative run play or a false start, and then it's 1st and 15, and then you run the ball for 2 yards, and then you want to run the ball on 2nd and 12. We beat ourselves because of mistakes. We didn't have time or the plays to be able to continue to run the ball. I think in this instance, 1st and 2nd down has to basically always be a run. If it's 3rd and long, then you just try and do a quick, basically like an extension of the run with a screen pass, or we like to do those Texas routes, getting the back on the angle route with blocking in front of them. Something like that. Like, there's not going to be a lot of deep passing game if the wind is what is expected to be. So run the rock. The Dolphins are the better running football team. As noted, the Chiefs are 18th in rushing yards allowed. And I think part of that is probably the Chiefs are known for playing with leads because they're very good. But this is a different Chiefs team. This isn't the most feared team in the league anymore. This is a team that is led by their defense that has an offense that plays off of them, if we're being honest. Because, as noted, they're second in points allowed. But like I said, this is going to be a run-heavy game for both sides, and the Dolphins have the edge with 6 in terms of yards, 6 in rushing yards per game. Chiefs are 18th in rushing yards allowed. That needs to be exploited. That needs to be the emphasis. And knowing Mike McDaniel, I think he's going to emphasize that. Number 2, limit passing. Literally, and this is less about the whole, we just have to stick with the run, McDaniel. No, limit the passing due to weather. As I mentioned, the wind's going to hold the ball up if you're throwing against it. And this is going to be the kind of game that is determined by one play. Is it an interception? Is it a pick six? Is it a scoop and score? It is going to be determined by that. It's going to be a low-scoring, defensive, run-heavy game. Unless, maybe I'm wrong, but that's just how I see it. Get the ball in the playmaker's hands quick. And Tua's good at that, so I'm not too worried. Whether it's screen passes, just quick routes, things that aren't going to put the ball in harm's way, because in these conditions, it's going to make all the difference. And then 3, and this is the story of the Miami Dolphins season and why we lose basically every game. The Dolphins have very little been beaten by other teams. I think the Bills beat us earlier in the season, and the Ravens destroyed us. But aside from that, the Dolphins have simply just beat themselves. I know everyone beats themselves, but it is so blatant. The only team that stops us is us. Because of the compounding mistakes. We saw it in the second half of last week whether it was the false start penalty, making a 1st and 10, 1st and 15, and making it just that much harder to sustain drives. Like, we played a phenomenal first half of football, and we were not able to replicate that in the second half because of those mistakes, whether it was the false start, the Alec Ingold penalty, a drop, a bad throw from Tua. Just, it was the compounding of that. Like, you can afford a bad throw here and there, or a drop here and there, or a penalty here and there, but it was literally all happening in consecutive manners, and that destroyed drives and lost all the momentum, and it kept our defense on the field basically the entire second half. So just limit those miscues and all of that, because that is how we lose these games, because of those small, minor details. So we have to limit those mistakes and not let them compound. If one happens, that's okay. Just get right back on and try and limit the next one. That's kind of how it has to happen, and that's why we've been losing. Players to watch for the Chiefs defense, as noted, second defense in the league in terms of points allowed, so they're a phenomenal unit, led by Steve Spagnuolo, one of the best defensive minds in all of football. Some of his key players are Chris Jones, obviously one of the best interior defensive linemen in all of football, L'Jarius Sneed, who's been a lockdown corner, dealing with a bit of an injury, Justin Reed, very good safety for them from the Texans, Nick Bolton and Willie Gay, both their inside linebackers, play with their hair on fire, very athletic. Hopefully the Dolphins look to take advantage of them with the motions, though. Trent McDuffie, still one of a young up-and-coming corner, but he's very good for them. And then George Karlaftis, the solid edge rusher out of Purdue. Is a very good player. Overall, offense versus their defense, I really think got to establish the run and take very selected shots, but be very careful in doing so. I think if you get into a run, and this is where it gets dangerous for them, because if we're running the ball, and these corners are trying to fit the runs and help in run support, and we got Tyreek Hill. Like, all it takes is one Tyreek Hill streak where they're not playing, where they're not fully paying attention, and we take the top off, and that could be all the difference. So having that lightning in the bottle is definitely clutch, especially in these situations where we're expecting to run the ball constantly. Now onto our defense versus the Chiefs offense. Obviously, we have probably the most injured defense in all of football. We're down our top 3 edge rushers, which, especially in a game where you're looking to stop the run and seal the edges, it's going to be very difficult, but hopefully the reinforcements we brought in are able to learn the scheme very quickly and establish themselves in Justin Houston, Malik Reed, and Bruce Irvin. Obviously, we have Emmanuel Ogbah and Melvin Ingram. Chiefs offense is 15th in points per game. Dolphins defense is 22nd in points allowed. Chiefs are 6th in passing yards per game. Dolphins are 15th in passing yards allowed. Chiefs are 19th in rushing yards per game, and the Dolphins are 7th in rushing yards allowed. So similar to the offensive side of the ball, the Dolphins have the upper hand in the run game, which this game is going to be dictated by, which I think it's very hilarious that all these media analysts are like, oh, the Dolphins are goofy, like, they're not built for this weather. Teams being built for the weather is more so how they run the football and how physical they are. And that's generally correlated to how they run the football and stop the run. And the Dolphins are better than the Chiefs at both of them. Now, how does that play out on Saturday? I mean, obviously the Chiefs have lacked emphasizing some of these things. Brett Coleman, who I respect dearly, came out with a video telling the Chiefs they need to run the ball more. So obviously if they do that and they have success doing it, maybe that's why the numbers aren't in their favor. But still, it's just funny how the narrative is what it is when the Dolphins are the better running football team. Some notes for the Dolphins defense. Deshaun Elliott and Javon Holland are both questionable, which is the last thing you want to see. I'm hoping, we saw a little bit last week where they both didn't play the entire game. They kind of rotated in and out. Brandon Jones has been solid. We can trust Brandon Jones, especially in a run-heavy game. He's good in run support. Have Holland and Elliott rotate in and out. Don't have both of them be out. Just rotate them in. We don't need them playing the entire game. Just enough, But that's good that Brandon Jones has been solid, but I don't want both of those safeties being out. That would be brutal for the Dolphins. Mike McDaniel listed them basically as game-time decisions. Defensive keys, number 1, stop the madman Isaiah Pacheco. That dude runs like he is pissed off. Once again, run-heavy game. He's a phenomenal running back out of Rutgers. Runs extremely difficult, and they have a good offensive line that can run the ball when they choose to do it. So got to look out for that. Key number 2, when the Chiefs are passing, especially, like I said, I think a lot of these passes are going to come on third down where it's obvious passing downs. You need to stop Mahomes from scrambling for the first down. He's an expert at doing that, and the Dolphins just got exposed last week from Josh Allen doing the same exact thing. Thankfully for the Dolphins, Mahomes isn't Josh Allen in terms of running the football. He's not going to be as physical. He's nor as fast, but he is sneaky fast, as we see year in, year out, especially in the playoffs. Teams will play man coverage against the Chiefs, and then Mahomes just waits for the DBs to turn their backs and then scampers for 15 yards in the first down. He's an expert at doing that, so the Dolphins need to key in on stopping that. And number 3, get pressure any means necessary. Whether if we can get it with our front 4 with Justin Houston and Bruce Irvin, beautiful. But if we got to send blitzes like we did against the Bills, that had great success. So kind of you got to be able to get pressure on Mahomes in order to limit his ability to make plays. So hopefully they're able to do that. Players to watch for the Chiefs, obviously Patrick Mahomes, best quarterback on the planet, and his running game. His legs himself, not their running game. Travis Kelce, obviously the best tight end probably in NFL history. Obviously got a key in on stopping him. The Dolphins had success in Germany when playing him. Isaiah Pacheco, as I mentioned, the dude is an angry dude when he has the ball in his hands. He runs like a cartoon character, as people have noted. And then a sneaky person to watch out for, Jerick McKinnon. He's always does well for them in the playoffs. Their third down kind of receiving back. He's a great player for them with the ball in his hands. Last but not least, Rashee Rice, their rookie receivers, had a very solid year and has basically become his favorite wide receiver option. So have to key in on him. But those are the notes for the game. Now for prediction time, the Dolphins are 11-6 on the season. I'm 11-6 on predictions, as I predicted the Dolphins win every game. I feel stupid in doing so I'm going to do something a little different today. And then 22-12 dating back to last year on predictions. So I'm still up 10. I'll take it. So if I truly am speaking my heart, I think the Dolphins have a much better chance than people are giving them. And I genuinely see a realistic outcome where the Dolphins win this game. Now, outside of this game, I don't feel good about the Dolphins' chances against Baltimore or Buffalo if we face them again. But against the Kansas City Chiefs in these conditions, I feel pretty good about the Dolphins' chance. To whereas if I was doing this like every other week, I'm predicting the Dolphins to win. But I'm trying to stop the curse of me picking them every week, and obviously it hasn't had the most success as we've lost to most good teams. So I think the Dolphins are going to win, but I'm going to predict them to lose. Now, is that counterintuitive? Yes, but whatever. I'm going to have the Dolphins losing 17-13, but I think they're going to win. Comment your predictions down below. I appreciate you guys for watching. It means so much to me. Like and subscribe to help the channel grow. And until next time, I'll catch y'all.